Reverend Barbara Leger.
Again. I'm so grateful. This is such a welcoming community. I was so blessed to be here yesterday in the paneling of our 3 new practitioners, and I just invite you to know that every single thing that we do, the way the order is of the bells, or the flowers, or the arrangement of the room, every thought that we have, every way that we enter the space, how we see each other, every bit of that matters deeply. Because out of all of those seemingly little inconsequential things is created an atmosphere. Now, I can say that with authority. Not because I'm a master of it, but because I'm committed to it. Because I'm learning and growing. The very first spiritual instruction about wholeness and this life of pure possibility that I remember ever having, I was 12. And it was such a profound experience for me. And yet out of it, I created something that was a devastating experience for 40 years. I took something so powerful and I couldn't hold it in itself, and so I took someone else's experience and allowed it to limit me. Have you ever done that? Given power to something outside of what we know to be true? And it's so, I didn't know this. Even just recently I was thinking, how does the consciousness that heals work? And it isn't like a bolt of lightning, although it can be like that, but it's drop by drop, step by step. And when I look back at my life, I realize all the times that life was bringing it to me and bringing it to me and inviting me to step in, and I'm going, no, not today, I'm not quite ready, or maybe when I lose 20 pounds, or how about when I'm not this, or I'm more of that, and do you know what I'm talking about? And I'd keep it away from me because of some sense of not deservedness. So 12 years ago, it was a long time. When I was 12, it was a long time ago. And I was in my room looking out the window, and it was nighttime, dark. And this poem came to me that I wrote down, this instruction. And it was, to stars and clouds up in the sky, I pose to you the question, why did I see you not before? As my reply, they said, come on, only look some more. And as I did, my small eyes grew in awe to see things so very new, the simple things I knew were there, but never really stopped to care of how or when or why or where. I didn't really understand it, but I felt it. I felt that it was an opening to a state of consciousness that heals. So I said at the first service that we're doing two parts of this talk. The first one was at 9 and the second one is now. And I want to make sure to cover the parts in this talk that I didn't do then, but I also want to set the context for you. And I brought this little picture. It's a picture of a dragon who seems to be set free from its cage. And it was a moment when I felt set free from my cage, and it was my first computer graphic drawing. It has a little rough look, but nonetheless. And it says, and it was dated 3 July 2002. And I remember where I was, somewhere in Ukraine. And it says, freedom comes when you face your fears. Freedom comes when you face your fears. Spiritual wisdom and how to follow it is the theme for this month, and today's talk is the consciousness that heals. What does that have to do with freedom and facing your fears? Well, here's the main point. There's a state of consciousness that heals whatever comes into its perception, because that perception is the one with God reality, healed of any duality and unified with universal life principles. That's a lot of words. It's written in the Science of Mind 90 years ago language. What it really means is that there is within us this natural wholeness that knows all things. It is when we see the infinity symbol, what that means is the whole thing is present everywhere at all times to anyone, no matter what we're doing, who we are, how we're living. It's all there. And the key is, how much of it do we understand? How much of it can we perceive? And this state of consciousness is a state that heals all of our little self. So when I ran downstairs as that 12-year-old little girl, and I said to my mother, listen, I wrote a poem, I want you to hear it. And she's doing what moms were doing. She was peeling potatoes, and she said, yes, that's fine, dear. And she didn't look up, and she kept peeling her potatoes, and I read the poem, and she said, that's nice, dear. And she didn't look up, and she kept peeling the potatoes. And in that moment, I made a choice that really was difficult to live with. Have you ever done that? Cut someone out of your life for some seemingly inconsequential thing where they didn't do what you wanted, or they weren't who you needed them to be, or you couldn't be yourself with them, and so you decided it'll never work? Have you ever done that? I have in many ways, but that's the biggest one I'm aware of. And all I can say is, thank God I lived long enough, and so did she, for us to heal that. But our lives are full of these huge gifts. And then what we do with them determines whether we experience it as a gift or we experience it as something else. And we make that up. That's our level of consciousness at the time. Was I wanted to be acknowledged. I wanted to be seen for who I was, and I wasn't. And so I started a story that day that I perpetuated for 40 years until I had enough consciousness to start undoing it. And so it's what Ernest Holmes says is the consciousness of wholeness is the healing presence. To the degree that we understand that this infinite life moves through me, is all that I am, that there is not one speck of my life that is not this great divine everything. Thank you. Yes. I mean, imagine that if you would for a moment. Look at your life. Look at the things where you may, hopefully not to the extreme that I did when I was 12, but where you have cut off some level of your heart from something or someone. Just take a moment and bring that into your awareness so that maybe today we can heal that by knowing a greater truth. Life is so precious that it's not worth holding on to something that hurt you. It hurt me. Okay, so what? Get up and walk, Barbara. Get over it. Love anyway. So look at your thing, wherever it is that you've chosen, because at some level you may think that you had no choice, but you did. I did. So whatever it is, look at it now and know. And if you would, you could just close your eyes for a minute. And you look at that person, you see them, you put them in front of you, or you see that circumstance, and we're going to reframe it. Because the consciousness that heals is within each of us always, fully and completely, no matter what. And it's yearning to be expressed. It's ready. It's waiting. It's knocking on the door. It seeks admission into our consciousness that we might love anyway. And so we look at this person and we know this thing. There is only one life, only one presence, only one power. That is God's life. And that life is perfect. And that life is my life now. And that life is the life of this experience and this person that up until this moment I have kept some level away from my heart. And I look upon this person and this situation. And I know that both of us have been drawn into this experience for the healing of our hearts, for the freeing of our mind, for the liberation of our emotions, that we might know more of the glory of this one life together. This person brings to me, or this situation brings to me, something I need to understand or I need to become. They are my gift. They are my teacher. It is my path. And we see them this way. This is a jewel of a moment, of a person, no matter what the experience has been up until now. And I know that we are one. I am you, and you are me, and we are one. And in this unity, we can live in harmony. For in my consciousness, peace has come and reminded me that we are one. And I bless you for being in my life. I am grateful for whatever it takes for us to be here and do this work together. And I know it is the great gift of this infinite love that we call by so many names. And I'm grateful that we have the chutzpah to use it today, to receive it as the gift that it is. And I know that we can begin again right now, brand new, releasing ourselves from the bondage of that old idea, of that pattern of thought that keeps us little, because it isn't our truth. And so in this moment, if you can say, I stand for myself, I stand in devotion to the love that flows through me. I let it be. I let it be. I let it be. And it heals me. It frees me from my story, from the past, and it allows me to be here, right now, with me and with us. And it's a gift. And on behalf of all of us, I say thank you. Thank you, life, for this gift. So you can open your eyes now. You see, sometimes you don't know what's going to come through. That is certainly not on my script. It wasn't in the plan. It's just, I guess, what wanted to happen. But I promise that as we practice being here and releasing and giving up, dragging the story into the present moment, you know, if the law follows us, it follows our state of mind, our state of consciousness, our state of being. If we insist on saying that I can't because of that, then that's going to be true. But if we have the courage and the support and the openness to be able to say, you know, it really is possible that I can be happy, healthy, whole, complete, that I can live on purpose. That's really our purpose, and I believe it is possible. Then things start changing in our life. I mean, on Saturday, I was standing talking to Rudy at R&R Market. And my son, I was waiting for my son to come. And I'm going through a lot. I have lots of stuff in my life. Anybody else have lots of stuff in your life? Yeah, yes, right. But nonetheless, I was happy. I was feeling happy, and we were having a happy conversation. And, you know, we're talking about life and how great it is to be alive, and, you know, just how something cool that just happened. Oh, I was telling him about my son. My son, I called him to say, now, what was the brand of the thing that you wanted me to pick up at the health store? And he said, so funny you would call right now. I said, why is that? And he said, well, because I just sent off this answer to a question that a river organization is doing, talking about what's your connection to the river that's meaningful. And I said, oh, did you talk about the Russian River? My son's here, so I get to tell on him. And he said, yeah, I did. And so I knew that it was about his childhood and how that river saved him. And then he read to me this poem that I wrote that I had forgotten that I wrote, which is about that moment. And I'm standing in the aisles at Orchard Nutrition bawling like a baby. And people are going, are you okay? I said, oh, I'm so okay. It's so wonderful. And so I'm telling Rudy about this, 20 minutes later. And along comes this guy with sunglasses and a baseball cap. And he says, hey, hi, how are you? I said, I'm great, how are you? He says, yeah, me too. And he kept going. I didn't know him from anyone, And then I said, excuse me. He looked at me and he said, yeah. I said, doesn't it feel good to notice when life feels good around us and respond to it? Doesn't it feel great? Doesn't it kind of open you up? He said, well, yes, it does actually. And he came and he stood and we talked to him for 20 minutes. He's a fisherman. I told him about my fisherman. And, life just got bigger and juicier because we just let it rip. And it can do that all the time. I mean, I have so many things in my life, and I'm not perfect. as many years as I have been seeking to be a peaceful person and to not judge and to not tell my children how to live their lives, I'm still working on that. But you know what? I'm committed to it. And so things happen to say, good girl, keep at it, go for it. And when we notice those things, they happen more. But when we pay attention to, oh, I was so bad, I did it again, oh my God, I'll never learn, then what happens? Then we have this guilt energy, and what does that bring to us? More guilt, you're right, Ed, more guilt. That's right. So we are the ones that have our hand on the gate between heaven and earth. We are the ones who can say yes or not yet. But Ernest Holmes said, principle is not bound by precedent. That means it doesn't matter how bad I was yesterday or last year, or how many mistakes I've made, or how many times I've failed, or how much judgment I have had. If in this moment right now, I have the ability to forgive myself and to know that the consciousness that heals lives inside me, and it only gets revealed to the degree of my willingness to celebrate it. No doubt. I mean, really. So, I have about 3 more minutes for about 1,400 things I wish I could share with you. Oh my goodness. I love my life. I love my life. I remember saying that one time, and Judith, who was a minister here for a while, said, wow, that sounds so great. Could you record that for me, please? Because I thought, well, I ought to do that because I really do. And I've got so many challenges. But what I know is that when life challenges you, if we have been depositing into our spiritual bank account, which means if we have, I made a whole big long list, and it's on page 8, and I'm only on page 2. So you won't get to hear them all, I'm sure, but there is a great big long list of the things we can do to deepen our spiritual consciousness that heals. We can accept instead of judge. We can forgive instead of hold grudges. We can smile instead of frown. We can laugh. We can cry. I mean, one of my granddaughters, one of Andy's kids, drew a picture of me, and there were these tears coming down. And I said, who's that? She says, that's you being happy, Baba. Because she knows that when I'm happy, I get these little tears. And so isn't it great to let yourself just be who you are and be seen? Isn't that what we all want? That, the more we court that presence that is us and allow ourselves to be who we are. I was telling Marilyn yesterday, I spent years trying to be like my sister, who's more like Marilyn than like me. And I made myself wrong because I wasn't like her. But I don't do that anymore. It's a really great thing. There's so much good in the world, and we can use it. And everything that happens to us, as the prayers that were said this morning, thank you so much, Sherry, for the treatments and the prayers and the consciousness that's here, because we are invited to remember that there's only one thing happening. And inside of the thing that makes you sad or scared or worried is that one thing. And that is the infinite power that knows no opposite to itself. It is perfect, whole, and complete, always, all the time, for everyone, no matter what. And if you decide to hold a grudge against someone, or withhold your love, or put a wall there, that's your choice. And I know you don't want to make that choice. And so I invite you to know that you don't have to. That you can let it go. There's nobody measuring any of that. God is not deciding on whether or not you get to heaven. You know what decides? Heaven is right here. How you feel is what determines. And here we are. We're here because we care. So God bless us all. really, and let the stuff go. And go to those people who you continue to do whatever you do to them and say, oh my gosh, I did it again. I mean, I can't tell you how many letters I've written my children and times I've called and said, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I really didn't want to be like that. And really, why not just own it? Because then, last night, and I'll end with this, last night I was having this thought. I heard somebody say recently, anyone who really loves you will forgive your mistakes. And I thought of a couple people I'd like to send that quote to. And then I thought, oh, that's not very nice, don't do that. But it had me thinking, and as I was thinking about it, I thought, that's not really true. Because I have people in my life who really love me and forgive my mistakes because they have invested enough in their own consciousness that they can accept me as I am, even though I put them in the middle of a conflict or I am less than perfect. And I have people in my life who love me completely, who have not yet learned how to do that because they don't have the consciousness to let go of the past. And I have been both of those people. I have been the one who held on to my grudge with my mother for 40 years, 40. That had an effect on both of us and on my family, to which I am sorry. But greater than that is that we did something about it. And it's never too late. So let the consciousness that heals us be our daily practice. Let's live in the moment and look for the good. And when the less than good shows up, look into it to find a way to find the good that's in the circumstance or in the learning. Life is so incredible. And take time to know what matters. Know what your intention is about your life. My intention for my life, I live an amazing life and I love it. I am healthy, happy, and live in my purpose till 100 and beyond. And so when life gives me a kind of a scary medical situation, where do I go? Right now, I go right there. Well, it must be God. It must be something to support my intention that I'm healthy, happy, and living in my purpose till I'm 100 and beyond. When we invest in ourselves, it's there for us when we need it. So do the work. Don't leave yourself a back door to say, well, I'm just like that, or it's not my time. Cut off the escape routes and be here and do the work, because this is the life we've been given. And it must be perfect. It is perfect. I love it. Let's pray. I have a request. They're going to sing a song in a little bit, but I'd like to sing one verse of it in Russian. There's only love. So if you could just do the melody. I'm going to do this because when we hear truth in another language, it has a way of slipping into our consciousness. There's a power in every word that is spoken, whether we understand the language of it or not. And so I'm going to just invite us to know that there's only love. Jest Tolka Lubov. Tolka Lubov svaditsa меня. Jest Tolka Lubov. Tolka Lubov. Любовь исцелит меня. Любовь исцелит, любовь проведит, есть только любовь. And so there's only one life and one love. And I let it heal me now. I let the healing power and presence of this life and this love be my guide, be my teacher, be my support, be the staff that comforts me, be the breeze that guides me forward, be the love in my family's eyes, be the purpose in my life that I passionately feel, be the challenges that I have the courage to stand in the midst of. This one love is our love. It's our love now. And I give thanks for all the good that it is doing in our lives and for our willingness to let ourselves see it and feel it and let it guide us to greater freedom and greater healing. It is so, therefore I let it be so, right here and right now, for all